Nolan, I read online about a 73-year-old widow who's been waging a 13-year war with her late husband's longtime employer. At issue is his $53,000 pension, which the company is refusing to give her. The reasoning is because he failed to fill out a form that made her the beneficiary upon his death. That is a significant mistake in the world of legacy planning. Can you tell us about the other beneficiary mistakes that people could be making and how you help people avoid them?
Yeah, we have put together here at America's Retirement Headquarters the Beneficiary Form Checklist. I mean, within the Beneficiary Form Checklist, what we do is we go through 15 different areas to help people try to ensure that their beneficiary documents are up to date. I would say it's been my experience in going and doing beneficiary reviews with hundreds of families over the course of the last 30 years. This is an area where 90% of the time we find mistakes. And the problem with this is you oftentimes don't find out about those mistakes until often something happens. And then, what is in writing is how it's going to go. There's another article that, went all the way to the Supreme Court, and it was an article talking about a wife who became a teacher. And early on in her career, she went and filled out her paperwork for her beneficiary designation as a teacher. Later on in life, got married, raised a family, and then ultimately passed away. And when her husband went to go collect on her retirement account, had found out that the sister was listed as the beneficiary because when she had filled out the beneficiary forms years before that, they were not married yet, so she never got to go in and never went in and updated her beneficiary form. And so the sister got the $1 million. And Chris, do you think the sister gave her brother-in-law the $1 million?
Probably not a cent, if I had to guess.
No, I mean, it went all the way to the Supreme Court. It's the story is on the pension pickle if you want to read it all. And in that particular story, it does talk about the fact that they said, yes, we believe that probably the intent was to have your wife leave you the money, but all we can go for is what's in writing. Mm-hmm. So this beneficiary form checklist, we're going to walk through it with you. We can do it either in person. We also have the ability to go over this together with you on Zoom. The first thing I'm going to ask you is, where do you keep copies of your beneficiary forms? So if you think about that, I'm talking about your 401k, your IRA, your life insurance, and your annuities. Are you able to, when we're done with this segment, go and be able to grab those documents in an easy way to produce copies of what your beneficiary forms are? If not, that's your first sign of risk. Number two is you want to say, are your beneficiary forms current? There's different life expectancy changes. The most recent regarding how the payouts work with IRAs and the ability for non-spousal beneficiaries. Sometimes if you want to leave money to charity, understanding how the rules apply and how those IRS rules apply, making sure that those forms are current with what the different tax law changes are. What are some of the different plan limitations that are out there? Thinking about different life events that could happen as well. Maybe it's a loss of a loved one in the family. Maybe it's a divorce. Maybe it's a new marriage in the family, a new child or grandchild. All of these things create reasons why to keep your forms current. Number three, have I named a contingent beneficiary on my form? What you have is you have a primary beneficiary. So the primary beneficiary is the person who's going to be the first one in line that get the money. In my example, my wife would be my primary beneficiary. So it says, in the event that I pass away with my retirement account, just pay it to my wife. Pretty straightforward. Many times people stop at that point, but what you want to do is you want to have a contingent beneficiary listed on your document. So the contingent beneficiary would be, if my wife is not here, who would I want that money to go to? In this case, it would be our two children. So naming them as contingent beneficiaries. People sometimes maybe will lose a spouse and they will forget to update what their contingent beneficiaries are. Number four is my signed beneficiary form on file with the custodian, trustee, or the plan provider? Here's an example where a phone call should have been made to the custodian in the opening of the document of the court battle that's going on, and that husband could have confirmed with the court or actually with the custodian, that they had those documents on file before they passed away, which is now why it's in a court battle. So calling your custodian or the holder of your retirement, life insurance, and annuity accounts and asking them what they have listed on file is a good fourth step. Then, while you're asking them on file, making sure that they acknowledge and send you a copy so you have something in writing that shows the most recent copy of what you have. If you're working with a financial professional, making sure that your financial professional has those documentations. Looking at when your estate plans were drafted, did it take into consideration my retirement accounts? I'll hear people say all the time, well, I have a will, so I've already got that stuff addressed. Some assets go through your will. It's like your bank accounts, your cars, your personal property, maybe your house. Other assets you can have named beneficiaries. Again, your IRAs, your life insurance, your annuities. Those investments don't usually go through your estate plan. So just because you did your estate plans, it may not take into consideration other accounts that have named beneficiaries. If you're naming a beneficiary and not an entity like a trust, have you put all of the correct titling in identifying what a properly named beneficiary is? Their name, date of birth, social security number, physical address, exact percentage. Does your beneficiary form allow what's called the per stirpes or per capital language? And what that means is in the event that maybe one of your children pass away before you, would you want their interests to go to their children, your grandchildren, or just your surviving spouse? Because the default language may not be the way that you thought it was going to be. So again, inside of this beneficiary form checklist, if this gets you thinking about it, this would be an area that it would be worth investing a little bit of your time to work with somebody here at America's Retirement Headquarters to go through that beneficiary checklist. In fact, we will go through that beneficiary checklist. It's complimentary. If you have more than $250,000 saved up in retirement accounts, can be a very worthwhile exercise because it is one of those areas that you don't get a do-over. So when you pass away, whatever is or isn't in writing could be a big financial mistake if not set up correctly.
Warren Buffett has a saying, he has a lot of sayings, but it's only when the tide goes out that you discover who's been swimming naked. Now that is pertains to investing, but it's one of those you find out whose estate plan is not done correctly, where that's when you find out is after they pass away. Nolan, I know you guys, when you do annual reviews with clients, you find out, and one of the things you discuss is what changes have happened. Loss of a job, addition of a loved one, subtraction of a loved one, divorces, things like that. And at that point, if there are any of those changes, correct me if I'm wrong, that is the next step is almost certainly going to be, well, let's make sure the beneficiaries are lined up. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, it'd definitely be getting that all updated and then getting confirmation back again from the investment company that they received those updates, acknowledge those updates, and have those updates on file.
So again, if you are an existing client, you know that is something that gets taken care of in those check-ins, those annual checkups. But if you are not, and you still want to make sure all your T's are crossed, all your I's are dotted, that beneficiary form checklist you heard Nolan say earlier, if you've got $250,000 or more of investable assets, it does not mean you have to hand $250,000 over to Nolan and the team, but that is when they can really begin to help you the most, and that is complimentary. So to receive a copy of that, give a call, 419-794-3030. It's 419-794-3030, or the website, arhq.com.